Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. We have certain standards here. The waiter's words cut through the ambient music, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. The young man in his department store clothes froze, credit cards still extended, as whispers rippled through Ciel's candlelit interior. Tonight was supposed to be his celebration. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation and the gentle clink of expensive silverware. Well-dressed patrons in tailored suits and designer dresses pretended not to stare while stealing glances at the unfolding scene. The maître d' approached with practiced precision, his expression a mask of polite disdain. From a corner table partially obscured by an ornate column, a man lowered his menu. His baseball cap and casual jacket had kept him anonymous until now, but his eyes, instantly recognizable to millions, narrowed as he observed the young man's humiliation. Robert Downey Jr. set his napkin aside and shifted in his chair. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. Alex Mitchell twisted the credit card between his fingers, a nervous habit from childhood. 20 years old and out of place. His one good shirt, ironed this morning in his cramped apartment, suddenly felt cheap under the crystal chandeliers of Ciel. He'd saved for months for this dinner, cutting expenses, taking extra shifts at the warehouse. Harvard acceptance letters didn't pay for celebrations, but he'd wanted to mark the moment properly. The reservation had been made weeks ago, his name confirmed twice by phone. Now the waiter, Ethan, according to his gold nameplate, stood with perfect posture and imperfect humanity, his voice a study in practiced condescension. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding," Ethan continued, not bothering to lower his voice. "Our clientele expects a certain atmosphere. The bistro down the street might be more suitable for your budget and..." A deliberate pause. Attire. A woman in designer pearls at the adjacent table covered her mouth, her laugh poorly disguised as a cough. Her companion smirked into his martini. Two businessmen paused their conversation to observe the spectacle, amusement dancing in their eyes. Nobody intervened. The maître d' now stood beside Ethan, a united front of starched shirts and judgment. "Sir, I'm afraid we're fully committed this evening," the maître d' added smoothly, though several tables clearly sat empty. "Perhaps next time call ahead for our dress code requirements." He gestured toward the door, a clear dismissal. Alex felt heat rising from his collar to his cheeks. The acceptance letter in his pocket, his pride just hours ago, now felt like a child's drawing on a wall of masterpieces. He began to retreat, dignity unraveling with each step backward. His special night transforming into a memory he'd rather forget. In the corner, Robert Downey Jr. watched the scene unfold, his expression darkening with each passing second. He'd chosen this restaurant for its discretion, the corner table for its privacy. Celebrities of his stature developed a radar for authenticity, and something about the young man's posture, a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty, had caught his attention even before the confrontation began. His dinner companion, a studio executive deep in a monologue about quarterly projections, hadn't noticed Robert's attention shift. The restaurant's whispers crescendoed, phones discreetly emerging from purses and pockets. Not for him, not yet, but to capture the humiliation of someone they deemed beneath them. Robert recognized the moment for what it was. Cruelty masquerading as standards, exclusion disguised as exclusivity. He'd been on both sides of such equations in his life. The young man was nearly at the door now, shoulders hunched as if trying to disappear. The waiter and maître d' exchanged satisfied glances, victorious in their small kingdom. Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching. Actually, a voice cut through the murmurs, he's with me. The words hung in the air, simple but weighted with unmistakable authority. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Robert Downey Jr. stood, removing his cap, his identity now clear to everyone in the room. The transformation was immediate, the restaurant's atmosphere shifting like weather before a storm. Phones that had been recording Alex's humiliation now swiveled toward the actor, though their owners tried to appear nonchalant about it. Mr. Downey, the maitre d' stammered, color draining from his face. We had no idea you were... Clearly, Robert interrupted, walking toward Alex with the casual confidence that had made Tony Stark iconic. He extended his hand to the young man, whose expression cycled through confusion, recognition, and disbelief. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murderous. You shouldn't have to start celebrating alone. Something in his eyes conveyed a silent message. Just go with it. The executives at his table watched open-mouthed as Robert gestured toward their table. I've got room. Unless, he turned to the staff, there's a problem with my guest. The maitre d' practically tripped over himself. No problem at all, Mr. Downey. We'd be honored to accommodate your friend. The word friend carried a question, but no one dared ask it directly. The waiter, Ethan, whose smugness had evaporated into raw panic, pulled out a chair at Robert's table with trembling hands. Our finest table, of course. My apologies for the confusion. The woman with the pearls who had laughed earlier now fussed with her napkin, avoiding eye contact. Her companion suddenly found his water glass fascinating. Around the restaurant, the energy had morphed from amusement at Alex's expense to the electric thrill of celebrity proximity. Whispers rippled. It's really him. Iron Man. Should we ask for a photo? The studio executives, understanding they were now supporting players in a different scene, shifted to make room. Alex, still frozen near the entrance, felt Robert's hand on his shoulder, gently guiding him back into the restaurant. He began, but couldn't find words for whatever this was. Just smile and nod, Robert whispered as they walked. This is about to get interesting. He raised his voice for the benefit of the room. So, Harvard, huh? Impressive. Much better than MIT. Don't tell Tony Stark I said that. The casual reference to his iconic role drew nervous laughter from those within earshot. Alex looked at him in shock. How could he possibly know? The letter had remained in his pocket. Robert winked almost imperceptibly as they reached the table. The actor's security detail, discreet but ever-present, adjusted their positions. Ethan hovered nearby, anxiety radiating from him like heat, menus clutched against his chest. The maitre d' personally poured water for both of them, apologizing twice more in the process. The studio executives introduced themselves awkwardly, trying to recalibrate to this unexpected scenario. Champagne, Robert announced. Your best. We're celebrating tonight. He turned to Alex, whose disorientation was slowly giving way to understanding. My young friend here just got into Harvard. Full scholarship. Doesn't surprise me a bit. Smartest kid I've met in ages. The lie, or partial lie, rolled off his tongue with the conviction that had earned him Golden Globes. This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk. The champagne arrived with unprecedented speed, the bottle presented with flourishing ceremony. Robert raised his glass. To new beginnings and, he paused, his eyes finding the maitre d' and Ethan, to judging people by their character, not their clothes. The statement hung in the air, friendly in delivery but unmistakable in intent. The staff's smiles tightened. They'd been called out, elegantly, but publicly. Alex found his voice at last. "Thank you, Mr. Downey. This is unexpected." He took a sip of champagne, the finest thing he'd ever tasted. "Robert, please," the actor corrected. "And sometimes, the unexpected moments make the best stories." He leaned forward conspiratorially, but loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "You know, when I was starting out, before Iron Man changed everything, I got turned away from places like this all the time." His gaze swept the restaurant meaningfully. "People forget that even Tony Stark had to prove himself. The suit doesn't make the man. The man makes the suit." The restaurant had fallen into a reverent hush, conversations abandoned as everyone strained to listen. Robert's voice carried just enough to be heard by those who needed to hear it. "Success isn't about what you wear or where you eat. It's about resilience, dignity, getting knocked down and getting back up." Alex nodded, the significance of the moment dawning on him. This wasn't just about a dinner rescued, it was a lesson performed live. The maitre d' fidgeted with his bow tie, discomfort evident in every movement. Ethan had retreated slightly but remained within earshot, his earlier confidence replaced by a studied neutrality. "You know what I see when I look at you?" Robert continued. "I see potential, not because of where you're going, but because of where you've been." He gestured subtly toward the Harvard letter poking from Alex's pocket. "That took work, dedication, the kind of qualities that matter." Robert's voice dropped, though still audible to nearby tables. "And I'd take those over an expensive suit any day. Trust me, I've owned plenty of both." The woman with the pearls was now recording discreetly, her earlier mockery transformed into fascination. Her companion watched with chastened attentiveness. The entire restaurant had become an audience to an unexpected masterclass in humanity. Phones captured snippets despite the establishment's no photography policy, a rule currently unenforced as management desperately tried to navigate this PR situation. "The truly classy thing," Robert said, signaling for menus, "is how we treat people who can do nothing for us in return." He made deliberate eye contact with Ethan, who had the grace to look down. "That reveals more about our character than any reservation ever could." The actor smiled, but his eyes remained serious. "Now what's good here? Besides the company, of course." Throughout the restaurant, patrons who had witnessed or participated in Alex's humiliation now sat uncomfortably, confronted by their complicity. Some whispered apologies to their companions. Others scrolled through the videos they'd taken, unsure whether to delete them or share them. The atmosphere had transformed from exclusion to reflection, all orchestrated by a man who understood both sides of acceptance and rejection intimately. "It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it." Dinner proceeded with impeccable service, the staff now performing with the precision of a Broadway cast on opening night. Alex, initially overwhelmed, gradually relaxed under Robert's casual conversation. The actor asked genuine questions about Harvard, about Alex's studies and aspirations, creating an authentic connection that transcended the unusual circumstances of their meeting. "Computer science, focused on accessibility technology," Alex explained, animation overtaking his earlier discomfort. "I want to build systems that help people with disabilities navigate digital spaces more easily." "That," Robert said, raising his glass again, "is exactly the kind of thinking we need more of. Technology that serves humanity, not the other way around." He smiled at the studio executives, who nodded enthusiastically, visibly calculating whether there might be film potential in accessibility tech. As dessert arrived, complimentary and elaborate, the maitre d' approached their table once more, composure partially restored but humility newly present. "Mr. Downey, Mr. Mitchell, on behalf of Ciel, please accept our sincere apologies for the misunderstanding earlier. Your meal tonight is, of course, on the house." Robert's response was measured. "That's generous, but unnecessary. Alex came here to celebrate his achievement, and he's earned the right to pay for his own celebration if he wishes." He glanced at Alex, returning agency to him with a subtle nod. Across the restaurant, the dynamic had shifted entirely. Patrons who had initially dismissed Alex now watched with respectful curiosity. The woman with the pearls stopped by their table on her way out, voice contrite. "Congratulations on Harvard," she said to Alex. "My son's applying there next year. It's an extraordinary accomplishment." When the evening ended, Robert insisted on exchanging contact information with Alex, real interest having developed during their conversation. Outside the restaurant, as his security detail brought the car around, he offered one final thought. "Tonight wasn't about me rescuing you," he said quietly. "It was about reminding them, and maybe both of us, that true class isn't hanging on the rack at Armani. It's how we recognize the value in each other." He clapped Alex's shoulder. "Harvard's lucky to have you. Keep building things that matter." As Robert's car pulled away, Alex stood on the sidewalk, the night transformed from humiliation to something extraordinary. Inside his pocket, alongside the Harvard letter, was a napkin with Robert Downey Jr.'s personal email address. Within an hour, the first videos appeared online. RDJ teaches masterclass in class. By morning, millions would witness the lesson, not just about a celebrity's intervention, but about what truly constitutes character in a world too often fixated on appearances. Wow, what a story! If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.